Alright, so we are just about done with this entire project. All we've got to do now is lighting and rendering. Now, when it comes to lighting and rendering, that is a really big task. It's not the easiest thing to do. So we're probably going to have an entire new tutorial for just lighting and rendering. So for now, we're actually just going to quickly throw in a simple HDR light, and we're going to do some quick lighting, and then we're going to do a little bit of composition to get it into our image. So jumping onto our camera here, I'm going to first hide the ground plane and turn on background images, and we don't need those anymore. Let's go add in a new image. This one here, I'm going to set it to map to the camera. I'm going to open up an image. So if I just go back and we go into textures, photos, I'm going to use this photo, deathvalleyroad.jpg. And this image can be found here from freeimageslive.co.uk/free_stock_image/deathvalleyroad.jpg, and that is a free image there. So with this here sorted, what we're going to do is we're going to select our camera and some options somewhere, lock camera to view. And now what we can do is we can position our vehicle effectively on this road. And if I just open up that link, I'm pretty sure that there might possibly coming up over to here. Okay, no, there's no information on that photo, so we don't know what the camera is, so what camera was used. It's currently set to 24. I'm going to set this to 35. Let's see if we can line this up. So I'm just lining up the center grid there with each side of the road, and you can see that it's not lining up by any means on either side of this. So I'm going to switch this down to perhaps say 18 millimeter. And I think that, yeah, it's going the wrong way, so maybe 50. We just want to effectively match this up as best we can. Alright. So I just pulled up some camera references on my other screen. Apparently there's like 350mm cameras and stuff. Whoa. I'll be honest, I'm not a photographer at all. Okay, that's just looking orthographic now. What I want to do is have these sort of tapering off as they should. So might take that back down to 24. See if I can get this relatively lined up. Eventually I'm going to just so it's going to be about this big in the field of the camera. Alright, so I'm going to use a 18mm lens, and that will do it about right. It's not perfect, but I mean, it's something we'll cover in the next tutorial. So just decide what angle you want to have your vehicle on. Decide on its size, scale. So we can position it from this side and have it sort of I think I might want to have this pointed from the front. Alright, so that's about, think about the scale is about the size that it would be on the road. So we can just move this around now and we'll just move it across the road a little. As you can see, it takes a little while to position these things. Especially with the angle that our camera is. We can pull so if we pull the camera up, like so, you end up with a much smaller vehicle. Whereas if you pull it down, you get a really large vehicle. So you can see this is the size of the vehicle at the moment, which is absolutely massive. So pulling up and down controls the size effectively. So I think something about this size will be fine. And yep, that's about, size is about right for the road. Just get a bit more of an interesting angle to it. Alright, so if we uncheck lock camera to view, that's our camera's angle. You can come in and you can grab these tires and you can rotate them. So be rotating this bit, and got to make sure that you've got them all parented. You can rotate them in, and then you would have that one flipped on the other side, and you get a little bit more of an interesting angle. So I'll probably do that for my render, but just for now, I'm going to Alt-hide, bring that ground plane back, and we're going to work on lighting. So we don't need this light anymore. I'm just going to move it to the last layer. I'm going to jump to the world settings and bring the world up over here. press home to zoom in on that. What I'm going to do is I'm going to add in a texture, environment texture, and we're going to open up probably an HDRI map. Yeah, what have we got here? I don't think any of these are going to be helpful in this situation, so none of those. Let's come to my textures folder. I'm going to go into static, sky, and I'm just going to grab a sky map and grab the sphere ones. No, not sphere. We're going to grab an angular map. And just this first desert one should be fine. Now I'm just going to change the mapping to mirror ball. It's not actually a mirror ball, but it's close enough. Throw the colour into there. And we just bring up our image again. The sun has no real direction to it. Now I'm going to have it over here, something like that. Turbidity, I'm going to set it back down to about 1.5, and I'm going to go color mix, going to mix together these two over there, and turn down to probably a 0.2, and turn this one up to perhaps a 1.2, should be good. And that one there will give us some nice environment lighting. Okay, we're also going to grab this object here, going to put this one here on a different pass, so pass index of 1. So everything is on pass index of 0 apart from this one is pass index of 1, and that just allows us to cut it out using the compositor. I'm going to grab this camera here. We're going to adjust the focal length, or not the focal length, we're going to adjust the distance. So it's probably about here. So over in the render settings, we can come to layers, we can make sure we've got Z checked, make sure we've got object index checked, and yeah. And I'm just going to make sure we check shadow pass, and check environment pass, and I'm going to check normal pass. And that just helps us composite a little better. Yeah. So that should be fine. Alright, and we save that. And what we do here is we render it out. I'm going to be rendering this out overnight so I can get a nice looking render for you guys, and then we'll jump back in with a conclusion and some post-processing tomorrow. And yeah, stay tuned for that in a couple of seconds. Alright, so we have finished a render. So this is the finished render we have here, which as you can see is pretty standard. It's not rendered at high samples. This one here, as you can see, almost 3 hours for about 300 samples. This is probably the render times you'll be getting on your computers. it will be less if you've got a more powerful computer. As I said, this is a 2.4 gigahertz and a quad core. So if you have an octa-core or if you're using a GPU, unfortunately I've only got a 1 gigabyte VRAM limit on my GPUs. So if you have a 4 gigabyte graphics card, you'll probably be able to render this out, or even a 3 gig one should do it. I think this one here, I wanted to use 3.4 gigabytes of VRAM. So yeah, it's quite an intense model. I'll tone this back to level 3 for simplify, just so that it would render a little faster. And yeah, let's get into some comping. So in the node editor, you can see we've got the compositor piece linked up. If we add in an image and we load in, I think this one, here we go, that is the image that we want. And we can throw in a translate node there in case we want to move it around. So you can see we can move around and stuff, and that's cool. Alright, so let's split out some of our masks. So we have a total of, I believe, 7 or 8 masks. Alright, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, about that many I think. We can always add or remove these nodes. And make sure you have smooth mask enabled as well. Okay, so let's grab the index OB for the index, object index. Just going to connect that up to all these nodes. And I'm just going to bring this one here over to viewer node, and we can automatically map this viewer node to whatever we want. Okay. Just seeing what we've got. Alright, and we also have our image here, our alpha. There is no alpha because it's a cycles render. ZDX is calculated with map value, of course. Normal pass, we might get into using the normal pass here. I generally like to use normal pass in Photoshop, but yeah. We don't need speed. Shadow pass never really seems to do much. Yeah. And of course we have our ambient occlusion. Notice that ambient occlusion takes into account all of your shaders, which is great. You don't have to do anything else to play that, so you can see our all our dirt that we've got around here is also helping with the ambient occlusion. And yeah. Alright, so let's get this mapped onto our image. Add a color, mix node. And I'm just going to name these quickly. So we've got this one here is the mechanics, I believe. Not quite sure which one that is, so I'll leave that. Let's call this one here ground. Lights. Lights 2. Wheels, we'll need this one. Wheel rims. Armor. And gun big. These are the masks that I've used. So I'm not quite sure what the first one was. I believe this was this is just ID mask 0, which is basically everything that doesn't have a ID pass associated with it. Okay, so let's comp out the ground. So we're going to grab this image. I'm going to grab this image. And we'll mix those two together. And you can see straight away it's going to just use that bottom image. So we need to grab that ground. And we can stick that one in there. Alright, so you can see it's in the wrong place at the moment. So we need to move this over a little. And we might just go scale. I'm just going to set this to render size. And there we go. That fits it a lot better. So render size, just map it directly on. Okay. So we also have this background here, which is our environment path. We'll see that. And yeah, it's just pass there. So I'm just going to use a luminance key. This image. And make sure we check the alpha there. And we want to key out all of this environment here. So right, 0.001, that will do that. And bring out that matte, which will give us just a black and white image. Which we can then mix together with our ground one, which is this one. So we're going to go color mix, mix together this one and this one and I'm just going to use a multiply. I might use a screen. There we go. So we now have our vehicle clipped out that we can stick into this factor value, like so. Alright, so if we link up, see, we now have our vehicle in. Now this white fringing around it, it's kind of annoying. The way we can fix that is we can actually use a distort, where is it? One of these ones, is it? Dilate and erode. Just going to throw that one in. Just give it a value of 1, and that will fix up that problem for us. Now we do lose our gun, unfortunately, so that might be fixable with this luminance. Unfortunately, because we are keying out the black, but the environment shouldn't be. Trying to find one that might be a little better for this. It's alright, we can leave it like that for now anyway. So that's that luminance key there that will do that. Alright. So we can remove these. We'll leave the image big. Okay, and what we're going to do now is we want to add in some shadows. We grab our image, and you can see our ground plane will mask out that. So if we grab a mix node, so ground is a factor value between this one and the original image. Right, and you can see that's added that ground back in. So we can set this one here to be multiply, and that will multiply that ground layer over. Okay, so with that one there done, we can add in some more color correction and stuff. So we can add in a color balance, we can add in a curves, RGB curves, add in one of these, and if we use the wheels, say I want those wheels a little bit darker, we can grab that down like so, and we can darken up those wheels. can also use a hue saturation. So I'll move that one there after it. It's good to have to get into, by the way, of changing values over here rather than in the node editor, because then we can get all these little small ones. Okay, so we'll bring that one in as the factor value, and we just want to pull down that saturation. Cool. Now what we can do is we can use a color balance, and what we're going to use is we're going to use the same factor value from over here, the Starlight Road, over into here, and we can change the sort of the color of just this vehicle to match our environment. So you can see if we crank up the blue in this, you can see it's gone around the wrong way. So what we're going to do is go invert that color, and it's going to make that smaller. Alright, so probably want this by the way is I believe the midtones, the highlights and the shadows from memory. So we want this to be a little more blue. The center one will change a lot effectively. So be very, very subtle with the changes you make here. As they will affect your render quite a lot. Okay, so it's going the wrong way. Cool, so it's close. There's a little too much green in there for me, so I'm going to bring these around. Okay, it's a little too much pink now. You see what I mean by these being a very subtle thing to do. I'll also throw a RGB curves in here. Actually, I'll throw that one in before. I'm going to throw this image into the image slot. The image comes in here, this one goes up to there. If we select this, we can just throw in a bit of contrast. And that will make it a little more fitting. Now, one thing I've forgotten to do is add in a mask. slowly tweak this around, and yeah, perhaps crank up a tiny little bit more blue, and yeah, that'll about do it. So what we're going to do now is we're going to close down this, and we're going to duplicate these two. Reset that curve. Grab this one, and we actually need to reset this one as well. So you just crank the saturation down to 0 on all of these. Pull up to 0. I've put the value at 0.5. Just go through that one in there, this one in here, and now we have a region that we can add in a frame. I'm just going to label this one here scene, and we're going to add in a frame over here. And I'm just going to call this one here vehicle. Okay, so we're putting a bit more contrast into the scene. And it's decided to not come up now. It's interesting. Ah, there we go. That needs to be 1. Okay, so we can mess around with our color grading a little and get it working alright. And after that we can add in a few other little effects, like say perhaps we'll add in a lens flare, lens distortion, and some depth of field. So just go in, I'm going to add in a depth of field first. Now you can add depth of field before your color correction or after, it's not a major issue. Okay, so let's go add in a, right, I want a filter, I want a defocus node. Going to grab our Z, ungrab it, we got Z. Make sure we check use Z buffer, uncheck preview, and change the f-stop to something like 50, and we'll see how well that goes. And just need to make sure we're on the right output. It's really strange. Sometimes you'll have like 100 as the value you use, and sometimes you'll have like 0.5. It's very dependent on your scene. So I can crank that up, maybe 20. There we go. What I want is I want the background to be a little out of focus, but not too much. You can also brighten up the background a little by using a filter map value, actually vector map value I should say. Grab that Z again. Plug that directly into the viewer. Use minimum, use maximum. Offset can be 0 for now and the size can be 0.1. And we'll see how well that goes. Okay, so let's go back a bit. Perhaps somewhere about there. Perhaps we'll take this down to a 0.03. Alright, 0.0. This one, -10 maybe. Alright, somewhere about there. So we're going to go colour, mix. I'm going to mix this one with that one as a factor value, and just white for now should be good. And look, just remembered, we want to have this before the defocus node, otherwise it won't work. Well, it'll work, it just won't work particularly well. So we want to throw that image in there, cut that one out. This image goes in here, connect up to this one. And I'm going to map this to screen, and what we're going to do is we're going to bring this colour down and see what we can do. We want this to be subtle, so not over the top, but just brighten up the background a little and have a little bit of fog in the scene. Just makes you feel a little bit more like you're actually there. And those wheels are a little too dark as well. So we can come back to the wheels, which was this one, I believe. Alright, so actually minimize these. Just makes it a little cleaner. And now we're going to add in a colour. We're going to add in a brightness contrast. Set that all the way up to 100. Going to grab just one of these is fine. Going to create a lens distortion node. So where is it? Distort. Lens distortion. Throw that one in there. Distort of 1. Make sure you check fit. And you're going to go filter, blur, fast Gaussian, and perhaps 20% should be good. Just minimize these. Color mix. So here's going to be a multiply. To multiply this one here over our original, probably by about 0.7, and we'll see how that looks. And we also want to go into here, one of these. Shift A, converter, math, greater than 0. We'll go into a lot more of this in another tutorial, but let's plug into image. Less than 0. Contrast 100, brightness 100. That's what I want. Basically we want a pure white image. In that way it'll blur it out and it'll create a lens, not a lens distortion, it'll create a vignette. That's what we'll do. And this is supposed to be greater than. Alright. There we go, that's what I want. Okay. So turn that down. Perhaps a 0.7 would be good. And we can also create a lens distortion up here of perhaps a 0.1 and dispersion of a 0.002. Okay, not a 0.1, perhaps a 0.01. Yep, and check fit. And that'll just make it look a bit more enticing, really. And yeah, that is our render done. So jump up here, it's one. Okay, so you can see there's a few little issues around here that we can fix up. It's not hard to do. You can go around, you can paint it out, you can fiddle around with the settings, but I'm going to wrap up this tutorial. So yeah, that's it's been a good tutorial. We've come a long way, come a really long way. It's been, I think, 21 hours worth of video, or including those time-lapse parts, I think probably about 35 hours worth of recording. So I hope you guys learned something. I hope you really enjoyed this. If you've got any questions, definitely let me know. Let me know what else you guys want to learn, and we will look into that. So yeah, we didn't get done everything we wanted to do. There's a few things left to do. I'm going to leave those for you. You can sort those out. Basically, what we've got left to do is we have those level of detail, so making this more easier to use, so baking out normal maps, which would be bump maps for cycles, baking out texture maps, baking out stuff so that it's much more optimized. We can also render out the interior. I haven't rendered out the interior here, it's in there but we can't see it, but the interior looks awesome, so you can check that one out. And yeah, it's what else do we have to do? I'm going to bring up my folder because I've forgotten. One moment. Okay, so in our brief we needed to have the level of details, and I'll bring this over here so we can check off what we have done. Okay, so photorealistic. It's fairly photorealistic. It's not perfect, but for something that we've created in a few days, it's quite it's actually not bad, and it is production ready. We haven't done all of our normal maps, but we have left on some our modifiers so that we can tone it back. Now all details on, that's always going to be there by default. That one there's there by default. Has quite a few small weapons. Does have a really big weapon. Armor that can be broken off. We have accompanied for the textures. Oops. We have our textured vehicle underneath. Need some detail underneath the vehicle. We have done that one as well. Exposed wires, yes. Looks like it was made in a scrapyard, definitely. Rusty and grungy, definitely. And we just have sand, but we have set it up so that we can easily change that over to mud. Just by changing the dust settings from a light browny grey colour to a much darker browny colour, and that will make it look much more muddy, and it's quite easy to do. So we've done everything apart from the level of details. So yeah, where to from here? There's quite a few things we can take this. What we've got to do from here is we have to properly light and render this vehicle. Now this is something that we've just worked together. It's been 39 minutes. Wow, I thought it had only been like 10. Oh well. So yeah, it's been a while, but we do need to light this vehicle properly. This vehicle is not lit properly. We have literally just got a physical sun and sky on here, and that's it. We also want to composite this correctly. It's not perfect. It's needs to be placed in a lot better. So we will be looking at how to do that a little later on. But for now, this vehicle is fine. It is done. You can throw this into your showreel and it will look pretty sweet. And throw in an occlusion pass in there as well, because the occlusion passes always show off your models really nicely. So yeah, that's it for this tutorial. And feel free to let me know any questions. I'm sure there's a ton of questions. This is a very long tutorial, and yeah, I look forward to hearing from you, and I definitely look forward to seeing your guys' results.